Hello, hello. Oh my goodness, it is 7 o'clock right on the dot. When does that ever happen? I am Beth Golden. If you are watching me on playback, welcome. If you are joining me live, welcome. Today I'm so excited. I'm getting away from the cards per se, though you can do this in a card. This is called buffing. It's a buffing technique. Dina Wakely does it. And I'm going to show you how to do the first step on a tag, and then we're going to do a journal page together in my little Dina Wakely journal that I got. It's the 6x6. I believe it was released Creativation of 2019. I love it. The paper in it is freaking awesome. So I am in love with it. So I'm just going to use her tag, and we're going to do a little bit of a technique. This tag is her mixed media tag. It's a small one, and I'm just gonna set it up. We're gonna move along because I already have the other step drying. So the first thing I wanna do is I just wanna put down a little bit of white gesso, and I didn't do this in the journal at all, and I really wish that I would have, because this helps your paint slide smoother, keeps your color pure, and just helps everything move better. And if you mess up, you can erase it. Plus, it allows you to use less paint. And I love her paint, but I go through a lot of it. Like, I love the colors I picked out. I'm going to share some of those with you tonight, but it's expensive. You know, one of these little ones is $2.99, and this is only 1 ounce, so that's $3 for an ounce. So yeah, so it's a little bit pricey. So I like to try to conserve that as much as possible. I just use a cheap white gesso on my stuff, but she does have a white gesso out that you could use. So, but I just use a Studio 71 one that I think I found somewhere else. So I need to make sure that that's dry. Gesso does dry relatively quickly, so I am going to heat this with a heat gun. Also, whenever you heat anything to get it dry, make sure you turn it over and do it on the back, because it does soak through. I'll put my dirty rag right there. All right, so what you want to do for this is you want to create a super thick paint spot, and you want to be able to see your brush strokes in it. So I am going to use this brush because it has rather thick, coarse bristles on it, and the older the paint, the better for this technique. So I'm going to use some Night. This I got, oh gosh, probably a year ago. So the older the paint is, the more it tends to dry and thicken up. She does have a heavy body acrylic, and that's what this is. So you just want to make sure that you apply a nice thick coat in which you can see your brush strokes through. It's super crucial that you can see your brush strokes through it, and your coat is super, super heavy. And it actually needs to be a little bit heavier than that, though you can see the brush strokes through it. I'm just going to go ahead and put it directly on my tag like this. And I'm going to do this painter style, that's what she calls it, in which, you know, I'm not going for complete coverage, and it's not going to like perfectly blended. I'm just doing it like that, and then I'm just going to kind of clean off my brush all around. And what you have to do now is, once you get that thick first coat on where you can see those brush strokes, you're going to set it aside and let it dry. And that's the hardest part. And I don't like to do this technique with my heat gun, because it doesn't get all the way dry, and I really, really need it to be dry for the next step. So excuse me, I'm still getting over really nasty cold. From here, I went ahead and prepared my art journal page yesterday, and I prepared it with the Magenta pink, and I'm going to finish this page tonight with you using that buffing technique. So the technique, what I'm going to need is I'm going to put a lighter color on the top, so I opted for lemon, and then I'm going to need a dry paper towel, and I'm just going to paint over that pink. And I have to, now this technique you want to do while your yellow or whatever color you use is still wet. Now, I did not gesso or prime my surface on this, and it really is soaking up quite a bit of paint because of that. So I would encourage you to always prime your surface with gesso. And why you want to prime it with gesso over an acrylic, a white acrylic, I know that some people say they do that, is because gesso has a grit to it. So it holds the paint, and it allows for the paint to adhere nicely. And it also allows you some wiggle room and some drying time. So that's why you want gesso and not white acrylic paint, because white acrylic paint doesn't do the same thing. It has a different property in it, see? All right, so that's that. I'm just gonna wipe off my excess of my brush just on my page, and I'm gonna use the rest of the colors with the same brush. And from here, you're gonna take your dry paper towel and you're just going to buff off that paint. But you don't wanna go too hard or else you'll remove it all. And so you just want to take and apply, you know, a decent amount of pressure and just start to buff it off. And what that will do is it will allow that pink to shine through, and you'll be left with a really pretty satiny type finish. Now, Dina Wakely does do this technique over on the scrapbook.com YouTube channel, so make sure you go over and you check that out, because she does show some of her art. So I'm just going to show you how you can do this and then kind of finish off an art page tonight using some of the collage also that I got of hers. But see, that pink has shown through. Super pretty. All right, so we are going to leave this like so for now. And I'm going to go in with some lime, and I'm going to do the edges. And then I'm also going to come in with some tangerine as well, and maybe a little bit of lemon too. But it's super important that I dry between my layers, because even though this is our acrylic and it will dry into a plastic, it's still, if I do this before it's dry, it will definitely mix and I'll end up with mud, because I'm using a warm color and a cool color. So I'm gonna do quite a bit of painting on this today. And if I don't want it, if I want it more fluid, then I can go ahead and just wet my paintbrush. All right, so since I am going into a cooler color, I am going to heat set this a little so it won't blend in, and use my green. Okay, so I'm gonna just rinse this brush off over here before I move along. And we'll use this for my warm colors. So let me go ahead and just pick up some of that green, and I'm just gonna apply it. And if you did notice, I did have some ruby red already down, and the reason is because I was cleaning off my brush from another project, and I always clean off my brush in my art journal. So this is a pretty good start. I want to get a little bit more green up there. And then we're going to start to put in some collage tissue paper. And I found all of this stuff at Blitsy and scrapbook.com. I did look at Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby used to carry a lot of Dina Wakley, and now they don't have any. And I couldn't find it in any of my big box places. So I had to go online and get mine. So if you're interested in any of this, I do have those links provided for you. And that would really probably be your best option, is to find it online, because you may be searching everywhere. And I know that like a lot of them do free shipping and stuff like that. All right, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and add on my collage, my sentiment and things like that. I do want to briefly clean that up for just a moment, because I don't want to cross-contaminate too much. And I can get I'm going to be using my brushes some more, because I'm going to paint over the collage. I'm going to be applying a couple different pieces here. And it is from the Dina Wakley collage paper. And you guys, by the way, this isn't sponsored. I bought all of this out of my own money. This is totally my thing. And so, you know, it's not, I'm not selling anything. This is just what I have. I really was into it. All right, so I'm going to be using the ultra thick gel medium. Any kind of gel medium really would work for this, because I'm not using really heavy duty substrates on this. I'm actually using tissue paper, and tissue paper it can be held down with just a regular old gel medium, but this is the only gel medium that was at my disposal. So I'm going to go ahead and put on this sentiment, and it is tissue paper, so it's going to just go right in there, and I'm going to pay attention to that crease. And this kind of molds into the paper. You know, you can see the edges on it right now, because you can see that collage gel on it, that gel paste on it. But as it dries, it actually starts to just melt right in, and you won't really be able to see it. However, with that being said, I am going to go ahead and paint over it and do some things like that. We're not quite done yet, because you can still, you know, you'll still be able to see a hint of it. So for this one, I'm going to put this piece on the top up here. And I really like these tissue collage sheets, because you can totally see through them, which I love. So I'm going to put that right about there. And then again, pay attention to that crease. Push it on over. You could do this on a card. You could do this, and then, you know, you can just take and trim off the excess. You could totally do this technique on a card or on a scrapbook page. This doesn't just have to be in your art journal, but I really love to play in my art journal. Oop, too much. I haven't really gotten into it much, just because I've been so busy with other things, you know. So it's really nice to get back into this. I want to complete at least one this year, and I think I'll be able to. And then I'm going to put this little piece here. Really cool piece. Love it. And so as you can tell, I seal over the top, as well as putting the gel down first as well. And then this one I'm going to put on the bottom over here. It's the similar one. So I just want to make sure I really get that base. And if you noticed, I did use that green over that orange and I did not get mud because it's dry, and when the acrylic dries it turns to plastic and it's permanent. So you couldn't do this with a water-based paint. It wouldn't work for you. But for this, with acrylic, it does. You just have to make sure that it's dry. All right, and then I'm going to put something up over here. These little cute, love those little bubbles. And then I'm going to put one, gosh, about there, I think. Pardon me, I'm still working on that cold. I wish it would just go away. And then I'm going to put one up here. And then I'll hit it with the heat gun, and this will dry relatively quickly. And then we'll add some yellow in spots over this. And the cool thing with this gel medium is it will allow me to take some color off. So that is really fun. I can rub color off if I get my rag wet, which I will. So I can paint kind of all over, get rid of those, any lines that I may have that's creeping through still, and it'll totally come right off. All right, so I'm done with my ultra thick gel medium, and again, I didn't have to use the ultra thick on this because it is just tissue paper. I do need to hit it with a heat gun. I'm going to just rinse this down with a little bit of water and a paper towel, because once this is adhered, this gel medium, this thick stuff, woo, it is serious business. Like, it really becomes one with the paper, and I've used it on cardstock, and it's amazing stuff. I love it. But for tissue paper, you don't really need it. I'm trying to get my heat gun. All right. The joys of life. I cannot edit out my dry time. I'm just trying to get it dry enough so I can start to paint over it. One spot. It's just not... There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go through with well, I think I'm going to go through with some yellow again, and maybe also some pink, some of this Magneta, and paint over some of the little spots. You know, make it not look so, wow, you put tissue paper down looking. So I'm going to do some yellow. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and actually rub some of that off as well. And I'm just hitting it not only where the collage is, but you know, wherever else I want to, wherever it makes me happy. All right, and then I'm gonna go in with my rag and put a little bit of water on it and just make sure that, you know, you can still see the saying right there, which you can. It just kind of disguises that the edges on the tissue paper. It kind of helps it all mold into one. That's what I'm going for. All right, so now I'm going to be able to just go on back through and let me throw on some of this Magneta also in some spots. And I might go in with a thinner brush, an angled brush this time, and just start to kind of hit some areas. And again, I really wish I would have gessoed this page, because this would have been so much better. But because I have to use a lot of paint, see, right now, because I didn't gesso my page. Okay, let me go ahead and hit that with a heat gun, because I want to go in with the green. And since we're moving over to a cool from a warm, I do want to make sure that this is dry. Alright, so from here, I am going to go ahead and clean up my little palette I got going on over there, because I don't want my green to lay on top of that. And my yellow brush and my green would be okay, because, you know, yellow is part of green. Actually, this is lime that I'm using. Just trying to rinse off that brush so it doesn't dry. And so I'm gonna go ahead and go on through up there a little bit. And then again, if that's, I don't want that green like that intense, I just take a little bit of water and boom, I can just, you know, remove it on out. And I'm just throwing on a little bit of color, the green in places. No rhyme, no reason, just play. And then again, go ahead and just remove some of that from there. That's a little bit intense right there. Same with that. Up there as well. we go. Coming along. All right, and so now what I want to do is I just want to come in and I want to highlight some of this. And what I mean by that, it's actually going to be a low light. I'm going to come in with my acrylic, the paint in the blackberry purple, and just circle the circles. And then I think I'm going to come in with a turquoise and circle my sentiment just to bring some focus to those pieces. Sorry, I have to like clean my brushes because if the acrylic dries on my brushes are lost forever. So I have to get them nice and cleaned off. And I'm going to come in with a thinner bristle brush on this. Use this one and this one. Let me pick up that. Okay, I'm going to hit it because it is a little bit wet. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is going to be this blackberry. I absolutely love this purple. It is gorgeous, so pretty. And I'm just going to go around my sentiment like so, just to kind of highlight it. And I'm going to go just around these pieces as well. All right, then I'm going to go in with some turquoise and add a little bit more detail. And I wonder if I have white, because white would be good. Okay, so this is going to be just the turquoise. And for this, I'm going to add just a few dots here and there. I just like the pop of color. So we're just going to kind of go over, put some dots. Then I will take this and run that around too, like so. And then I think I'm going to call that page good. So anyway, that is how you can do the buffing technique. And let me see if this one is dry yet, because if it's dry, I can do gold on this. Oh, it is dry. Okay, so let's finish this one off with that gold. So let's see here real quick for those of you that didn't get to see it. It's basically you lay down a super thick base of acrylic heavy body paints with your brush strokes. You want your brush strokes. So you definitely want your brush strokes in. This, it has to be thick enough where you have brush strokes. So once you have it thick enough for your brush strokes, and I did prep this with some gesso, you will go in with another color. This is Night. It's like a really dark blackish blue. And then you're going to take, I'm looking for a dry brush. You're going to take and you're just going to paint over that with your other color. And so this time I'm using gold. So you can just paint the whole thing over or not, doesn't really matter. And then before it dries, you want to go in with your paper towel and just start to rub some of that color off. And what happens is it will adhere to some of those brush strokes. And so you'll get that other color in and reveal that dark color under it, like so. You don't want to use a baby wipe on this because it'll take off all of your color, and you don't want to use a wet paper towel. You want to just make sure that it is dry. And now you have a really cool substrate that you can add other stuff to. So that's what we did tonight in the art journal, and the color that I used as the base was Magneta, which is a pink, and then I went over it with a lemon yellow. So this is what it created. I did this technique for the first time on this first page. I used a Night, and then I used turquoise over it. And then I also, as you can see, I used some of those collage pieces. Then the other thing I did, and which I absolutely love, and I did a poll on Instagram asking people if anyone would be interested, is this. And it's super easy. So I'm going to do a collage face probably next week with you guys. So I don't know if I'm going to do it live or if I'm going to video record it of how to do a piece like this, a collage like this with a face that you put on. Because these are all blank pages. So you have to put the face on. That's a Jane Davenport stamp. It's so easy to do, and it's just, I just love it. So anyway, a lot of people are interested in that on Instagram, so I'm going to go ahead and put that together for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video tonight. I know it's a little bit different than card making, but you can easily adapt it to your card making. You can make mixed media cards. Honestly, you guys, I had so many cards, they were coming out of my ears, that I have all these art journals, you know, and art journals you can hang on to for years, and I really wanted to have something that I could look back on and keep, and I don't keep cards, so I try to give them away, but I have so many, so it was fun to play tonight in the art journal. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you're interested in any of the products that I used, the best places I found them are at Blitsy and Scrapbook.com. I have those links provided for you down below for your convenience. Please feel free to use them. It helps me out if you do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I certainly hope that you do so. And I hope you all have a wonderful week.